Hey everyone, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, here in the studio as always. Got my headphones on. That's awkward. I usually take them off by now, but I was in Lup Diesel's live stream, so let me take these off. And, normally I'm just hanging out on other live streams, the precursors before this one starts. So, tonight we're going to talk about natural aquariums, or at least nature and what nature does, that type of thing. And so I'm hoping a lot of questions come in, and I'm not saying that I'm going to know all the answers, but I think there's a lot of things that we take for granted, and I think nature has figured out most things. We just haven't figured out nature, I think. So, it kind of stems from still that store in Ocean Aquarium in San Francisco, and they're using deep sand beds, which I think is cool. They're using snails. They're using lots of live plants, and he's not doing any water changes at all, but he actually is doing some water changes because right there, Ruru says nature does constant water changes. There's lots of places that's not true. So most goodeids are stuck in pools of water that never get a water change. So dilution happens when it rains. There can be slightly more water in there, but usually the way stuff is being exported and stuff like that is plants and, let's say, fish and stuff like that are being eaten by predators and taken out of the system. And then things, when it rains, are being washed into the system. So it's not like a normal river and stuff like that, which those are constantly changing. But there's a lot of systems out there that actually don't change. Well, that's not that they don't change, but they're not getting changing water all the time. So anyway, I'm going to start doing all of my tanks on my fish room mostly planted. I'm going to test that deep sand bed. I've played with it a little bit in the past. I've never had problems with it, but I've never fully tested it. It takes at least 6 months to get up and going and start, generating some of those bacterias. I even considered doing a little bit of soil in one of them, maybe. I just don't like when I go to replant, but usually with these deep sand beds, you don't want to plant deep anyway. Or not plant deep, but you don't want to replant a bunch anyway, because it's basically with the sand, or not sand, but gravel, whatever you're going to use, you get the layers stratifying. So you've got like the top inch and a half is all your bacteria that's going to process ammonia and nitrite. And then the next zone is kind of an in-between zone. And then the bottom zone is where you get the denitrifying bacteria. And so if you keep those levels separated, then they work in conjunction with each other. It kind of, as waste travels down through it, it gets more and more digested by organisms. And then it's our job also to populate the aquariums with organisms. And I think this is where we're failing pretty hard. 5 times a day at least, people email me, they, leave comments, that type of thing. How do we get rid of snails? And really, somehow the internet has started off with snails are bad. And I believe that 9 out of 10 species, thousands wide, are actually very, very beneficial to the aquarium. So my first question always is, why do we want to get rid of snails? And there might be legitimate reasons, like maybe, I'm catching the snails, eating this spawn that I'm trying to breed of this fish. There might be some legit reasons. But then there's also, just fear-mongering. And I think that's what goes on, is most people, I'd say 99 out of 100 of these people I interact with every day, well, the internet says I have to get rid of them because they eat plants. And that's just not true for most species of that. So, like with these deep sand beds, I want to get different worms going. So one of the most common ones is going to be live black worms. Get those kind of going down through the layers. Malaysian trumpet snails. I would love to start culturing like darrow worms, maybe some like glass worms, stuff like that, if I get that going on in there. I got scuds when I was down in California. I want to get those introduced to a system. And the goal would be that we're keeping a system that self-digests, so if you look at a lake, essentially we're going to get, some rain, but mostly we're going to rely on plants and stuff like that to really churn through it, and that's what I'm trying to develop. And then once I can get it doing that, then add fish to it and enjoy it. So I'm trying to keep an ecosystem first, and fish second. I think a lot of us approach it, we're trying to keep fish first, and the ecosystem is second. And a lot of times, the problems that I run into and hobbyists run into, it's a maturity thing. Like, the longer that tank goes on, the more stable it gets. We're trying to change so much water to fix a problem that if we didn't fix it, then the aquarium would naturally settle out. Like, so all the algae behind me, if you guys watched that, weeks ago, covered in algae, head to toe back there. And yeah, I did add some shrimp in there, but really it was starting to recede on its own. So it kind of bloomed really hard, and that's what happens. And then, nature kind of sets in and goes, wow, there's way too much algae. So then it started receding a little bit. And as that recedes, it's causing some plant growth because I added some plants there. So we're getting kind of a more developed ecosystem going in there. So that's kind of some of the groundwork. And then there's a lot of other things we can do. Like, for instance, you guys see me use bug zappers outside to get bugs to land in the pond. I think some of that. I want to play with Daphne outside, where my only source of food might only be stuff that falls in from trees, because that's what would happen in nature, and then kind of let that colony sustain itself to a certain point and not force it so that I have to collect 3 pounds of Daphne every week, as opposed to, well, let's just see what it will sustain and use nature to our advantage instead of trying to outdo nature. And I feel like we do that all the time. Like, I need my 10th canister filter. Why? Because I need it. As opposed to, I actually believe there's enough surface area in most aquariums that we don't have to run filtration at all. We need some circulation. We need some of that water to move a little bit. And I think an air stone can accomplish that. But, so yeah, someone asked, how deep does a substrate need to be? I haven't been able to do enough testing. So there's some articles and stuff that say that denitrifying bacteria and stuff like that can be done in as little as 3 inches, and then some recommend more like 5 or 6 inches. So, I'm going to set up some different ones and kind of just monitor it and see how it goes. And there's lots of technical things on, a lot of people are worried about the hydrogen sulfide gas. The reality is it shouldn't really be getting ever into the water column because we're not going to mix it up. And there's plant roots that can actually adapt and use some of that, and they can use supposedly in that middle layer, so not the top or the bottom, but that middle layer, there can be a lot of CO2 buildup, and then the plant roots can uptake the CO2 from there. So you can get all these different things going that we don't get going in our aquariums. Because why? Because we gravel vac, right? We're always gravel vacuuming, and if we gravel vac more than once every 6 months, we're not letting all those different levels stratify and develop. And there's different ways you can go about this. You can go like a natural planted tank with Dr. Wallstad's method, where it's kind of soil down below, and then we're going to cap it with something, and that kind of works the same way. We're never touching that cap down low, and she's proven that, I think, and this is all off the top of my head, I think there was like 49 strains of bacteria or something like that in soil, and then like 7 of them will adapt to aquarium water, which was kind of cool. But then if we are just normally keeping our own aquarium, and we're starting with like just fish and some plants or whatever, we only get like 3 strains of bacteria or something like that. So, we don't necessarily know what all the extra bacterial strains will do for us, but there is a possibility. And I just have a feeling we're really underutilizing what nature already does, and trying to perfect something that it's already maybe perfected or gotten pretty good. We want water that's crystal clear. Like I'm a culprit of that. I hate tannin water, and yet tannins in water help keep eggs from fungusing. They help fight off minor bacterial infections and fungal infections. So some of these things exist for a reason. They also cut down on aggression for fish because they can't see as far. So yeah, that's, I'm going to start grabbing some questions here because I can see the chat just scrolling. But I'm trying to lay down some foundation here so that we can keep talking about it, because it's not something we can get to the end in one show for sure. Up top here, let me move my camera. I can do that with this. Let's see here. So I put up some shirts. These are all shirts from different people. So we've got, a couple from me, obviously. I've got Steenfod Aquatics. I got KG Tropicals. And Sergeant Tanks right over here. Lamont did the art. I think the art is super cool. If you haven't checked out Sergeant Tanks, that's a fish channel you could check out. And I'm going to go back down to me now, but eventually I'm going to fill that whole wall, I think, with lots of t-shirts, and they're all framed up and it looks kind of cool. What I didn't anticipate, though, is that like right here there's a big glare from where I've got this big chat screen going, and so I got to figure out how I'm going to stop that from happening, because I think it's going to be annoying long term. So let me get me back down in the frame here. All right, so who's got questions? Let's start talking. Let's start diving in here, because I know I don't know it all. So I throw limbs off the bushes in my ponds and tubs in the summer for coverage and other beneficial things. That's a cool thing right there. I'd never thought of. You could just take branches, and that will cause the shade right above it. So I always put like a glass top, or usually I'm propping it open so that it vents out. But the like the branches would do multiple things. They'd shade, but also would encourage like insects and bugs to come in, and they would drop in too. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of things we could work with. Can you grow lucky bamboo in your tank with marine lighting? You should be able to, Tanya. Make sure the bamboo, the leaves and stuff are up out of the water. Yeah, but it's not too demanding on light. In fact, I used a lot of bamboo in my old turtle tank because turtles typically eat plants, and so I wanted something to digest nitrates in that aquarium. So I put a bunch of bamboo. I bought the ones that are 2 feet tall, put it in a 55-gallon tank, so they all stuck out of the top. And so, like in a turtle tank, I'm not sure. Well, I haven't tested it, but I think you'd need a pretty thick gravel bed or sand bed or whatever you're going to do, because the turtles will dig a bit. So if they dig 2 inches down, you really want to make sure they don't get to that hydrogen sulfide gas, because as it comes up, if it were to let a ton out, it could become a problem. 1 bubble, 2 bubbles, probably not an issue, because we're going to be gassing it off with air stones and stuff like that. But each system is going to be different. I think that's why the natural aquarium doesn't get enough I don't know what to call it, followers, the movement, whatever it is, because every one of them is going to be different, and you can't just say these plants, this substrate, and these fish will work every time. There's going to be water structure problems, like what if you're to run out of calcium? Like I don't have like any calcium, so I feel like I've got a bunch of aragonite down there, and maybe I'm going to have to supplement calcium long term. We'll see what happens. Can guppies live with shrimp? Yeah, so that's a good point. Is in nature that's what happens, right? So I've always kept shrimp, snails, plecos, and like guppies together, and it works out awesome. And I just kind of look at what does nature allow, and in big enough aquariums, in theory, we could have peacock bass and cardinal tetras, because they technically live with each other out in the wild. It might need, a 5-acre big aquarium to pull it off, but almost anything can be done if nature's doing it. It's just what we can do when we start putting into confined spaces. So, there's going to be some, well, yeah, that worked in nature, but maybe it's not working, in our own aquarium. So, for instance, let's say I drop in 500 catappa leaves into the tank behind me. If it gets so acidic that, guppies can't live in it, that'd be bad. So maybe we're going to adapt some things to certain fish, obviously. What triggers a nubius to flower? For me, I just find when it's not competing with plants that eat way faster than it. So when it's kind of in a tank with low maintenance, low fertilizers going in, and not having a bunch of stem plants stealing all the food, that's what I like. Or that's what I find it flowers the best in. So Ken says, Corey, I haven't changed the water or gravel vac to my 55 since I set it up. I've added water due to evaporation and nothing else. 5 months, and there are over 60 fish, 15 of which were born in the tank. So yeah, Ken, I mean, I've definitely done that kind of stuff in the past. Like my crystal shrimp breeding tank didn't get a water change for 2 years. I've done, and I'm not saying 2 years is 20 years or anything, but I've done some decent long tests. And I used to run my fish room before I had auto water changes that I would only change water when fish stopped breeding. And I found most fish would never stop breeding and seemed to be healthy, but I would actually give in and do a water change like every 6 months because I was bored. I just like, well, I did it out of fear more than anything else, because you don't really want to find out, oh yeah, month number 8, total death. Now I know for next time. You never want to experience that, so you're always, but right now a lot of people might email me and they're scared if they are going to miss 1 week of a water change, and they might, so you're going, oh man, they must have a heavy load, and it's like, turns out it's 1 betta in a 5-gallon tank. You're like, no, it'll be fine, So water wisteria is a water column feeder, no problem in sand. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, it's a water column feeder, but in super dense sand, sometimes it can choke off the roots and the stem. It might rot off. But yeah, of the plants you're going to put in sand, water column feeders are always going to be your best choice for sure. And so I should qualify that. All the articles I've written, if you're going to use sand in these deep sand beds, you want a sand that doesn't compact too tightly. So things like what you want to be using is like pool filter sand. The aquarium co-op sand would work. I think maybe some of the fluorites, Eco Complete, those would probably work. I think gravel will work, crushed coral will work, but really fine sands like Tunisian Black Moon sand. What is it, like play sand and stuff you get at Home Depot. It's like $5 for 100 pounds. It's super fine. That's going to compact too much because you actually have to let the water get down through the layers, and different worms and stuff like that, they actually have to be able to go down and get in there and do that stuff, and not just just be an impenetrable layer there. So let's see. So I shouldn't be gravel vacuuming every water change. Well, Christy, it all depends on how your aquarium is set up. If you were to set it up a natural way, you would not be doing that. And that's because you're relying on the bacteria levels that are going to get established. If it's a planted tank, you probably don't want to gravel vac every time. If it was an African cichlid tank that was real messy, maybe you do. But in general, like for me, if I have an aquarium that needs gravel vacuuming, if I water change it every week, I gravel vac once a month, and then the 3 other times are just kind of water off the top is what I do, because I find that my gravels don't get that dirty the way I set up my tanks. What substrate would be best for a deep layer? We kind of just talked about that. Also, what plants, fish, and vertebrates use for most efficient ecosystem possible. So I don't know the answer to that yet because I haven't done it a ton. But what I suspect would be a good way to go is slower growing plants like anubias, java ferns, mosses. So that way we don't have to put in tons and tons and tons of fertilizers to keep them going. And then for fish and invertebrates, I think it's pretty much any fish that's not going to dig a lot. And then invertebrates, probably shrimp, snails, scuds, maybe daphnia, copepods. I'm trying to think of other things. Planaria. They talk about planaria a lot in those articles, how they're actually super beneficial to go down and just clean up stuff. I'm convinced there's a lot of stuff that we don't use that is beneficial, but we're afraid of. Typically, I know I am. I'm afraid of what I don't know. And so I think most of us are that way. How many pounds of sand for the bottom of a 150-gallon stock tank for goldfish? I would say just a very thin layer. And the reason for that is they're going to dig the whole time. And I'm not sure you'll be able to get any stratification with goldfish, if that's what you're talking about for this. If it's just to cover it, just enough to cover it then. H2S, is that hydrogen sulfide? I don't know what H2S is. Let me look that up real quick. Above 100 parts per million is highly toxic. H2S. Yeah, that's hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, I could believe that, Chris. The problem is, I don't know, like, let's say you had one bubble that went up. I don't know how much it's going to dissolve in the short time of travel to the top of the tank. And then, is there an easy way to test for hydrogen sulfide? Is there like a little test we can do or something? Because that'd be pretty useful, honestly. Any tips on how to get algae to grow on specific decorations or areas in a tank? It's popping up in my live plants, but I don't want to get rid of it altogether. Just adjust where the majority grows. I think it's going to depend on part of the light. Like if you shine it on the back wall, it's going to encourage it there, versus if you're shining it down, the plant's going to encourage it there. So, yeah. Ooh, Fresh H2O's got a good tip for me. Just angle the frames of the t-shirts differently so it doesn't reflect towards the camera. Yeah, I will totally do that. I was on Sasimi's live stream, Jimmy, earlier today, and they kind of interrupted me doing this, so I didn't get to play with it and test the camera at all, so I literally just got it done and right before this, so I'll see if I can't make that better. Can you cut the roots when you buy plants? I find it difficult to plant stuff when it has really long root systems. You can bend, but that usually makes the recovery time a little bit longer. So it takes a little bit longer for that plant to start thriving. What I find easiest is some nice planting tongs with curved tips. You can get that pretty deep and plant the plant much deeper than it needs to be, and then get the tongs out, but then pull up on the plant. So what you do is you kind of send those roots, you kind of, if this is the root, you're kind of mashing it down way to the bottom, and then it's way down there, and it's kind of like part of the root's going to be pointed upwards. So it's kind of this U shape, and here's the plant. Well, if you pull on the top of the plant, it forces it to kind of right the roots the right way, and usually you can get kind of a faster like transition into your aquarium going. Let's see here. Man, I'm way behind. I apologize, but we'll see what we do. Also would use live foods for cleanup crew. Sorry, subject's really interesting. I find it fascinating, by the way. That's why I'm so into it. I love to go into the unknown and just see what happens. But yes, I think cleanup crew-wise, live foods would be amazing. So Daphnia are going to be like water column feeders. Now, most shrimp are going to eat that, but imagine a Daphnia colony like LR Brett's has going with shrimp. They're not going to eat each other, but yet they're also keeping the water cleaner. So that's kind of a good thing. Might work the same way for crayfish. What else could it maybe work for? Maybe plecos. Like maybe they wouldn't be very good at like pulling them out of the water, so it'd only be if they're close to a surface maybe. But yeah, so I'm going to use scuds because that's what I saw there, and I want to try it. And we'll see, because really live foods, for instance, a snail's a live food to a loach or a puffer, and yet we know they're very beneficial in a lot of our planted aquariums. JJ1 Monster says, I have a planted tank with sand substrate and was wondering what are some things I can do to add nutrients to my plants. Now here's the problem. It's at the bottom of my screen. If I click down, I'm hoping it's going to show me the next line, but it might skip way to the bottom. So let's see. Okay, good. Currently have Flourish and Flourish Excel. So it's going to depend on what kind of plants you have, JJ Monster. If you've got a lot of water column feeding plants, so Anubias, most stem plants, Java ferns, mosses, more Flourish could help. So not specifically Flourish, but maybe Flourish Nitrogen. That's probably what they need the most, and maybe potassium as well, but, basically more liquid fertilizer, and just Flourish itself is kind of weak. It's diluted. But if you have ground feeding plants like Amazon swords, let's say some bulb plants like some lilies, what else? Crypts, for instance, they get a lot of their, about half. You can put in root tabs. Now, if it's a fine substrate, it might be a little hard. What you can do is you can make fertilizer ice cubes. So you could make up like some soil and get some peat moss and probably those two, maybe a little bit of clay, and kind of mix that up really good like you're making meatloaf or something in a big bowl, and then add water and then pour that into an ice cube tray, freeze it, and now you've got this cube that's frozen. You go and you put that down in the substrate under the sand, and when it thaws, it leaves all that stuff there. And it'd be kind of like amending your soil in your garden. We add, peat moss and, vermiculite and stuff like that, which we don't want to add to aquarium, but peat moss and stuff to loosen it up so that way plant roots can travel well. We could start maybe trying to do that in our aquarium as well. That being said, I haven't done that with a sand substrate. I've done it with, with gravel and stuff, and it's worked. But with sand, I'm not sure how well that works. You could definitely try it, though. And, maybe it's great, maybe it's horrible, but no, it's an experiment. Let's see here. I just got texted here. Oh, it's my store. Hopefully everything's going okay. I'm going to check real quick. All right. Is wisteria a bunch plant? You can buy it as a bunch plant, the Fish Life, but typically I sell it as potted. And I didn't realize you had a fish channel, the Fish Life, till earlier today. I was watching one of your videos, so because you did an unboxing of my shirt. That's right. Yeah, so check out the Fish Life. I was checking them out earlier. What do you need to look after discus, and what do you need to give them for a natural environment? So this is an interesting one. I haven't tested enough, but I think they do really well in black water. So I've got some footage of it, but we haven't put it into video or anything. But a different store, what was it? It was Neptune Aquatics when I was in San Francisco. They had a black water discus tank that was so black you couldn't see more than 6 inches into it. That being said, when a discus swam up, it was like the brightest colored discus. They all looked amazing. Their colors were really popping because I think they felt so secure because it was so dim. And so I would try something like that if I was really trying to do something amazing. And I would wager, without any proof of my own, that pH would be pretty low in that tank. And then also I would suspect that it would fight off fungus and for the eggs. So, you know, I would be working on that. And they had kind of lighting coming down from the top, and they had plants growing out of the top and wood coming out of the top. And it was probably like a 300-gallon tank. It was really cool, but bizarre, because at first I'm like, this is just like, are they just cycling it with wood? Like, it's so tannin. And then I saw the disc, I was like, no, this is awesome is what this is. I've never given my banana plant fertilizer, and it's doing great. Good. You know, the goal is to meet the needs of a plant, and that's the goal. So some water is great for it. Like some well waters even have nitrogen in it. They've got calcium, magnesium, iron, all that kind of stuff. So you may never need fertilizer. And then you've got like my water where it's RO water. It basically has nothing. So there's nothing for a plant to derive besides what I put in with fish food. And so fish food, for instance, not going to have a lot of iron unless I get one with calcium. Probably not going to have much calcium. Probably won't have much magnesium. It'll have phosphates. It'll have nitrogen and some things like that. But, you know, the goal is provide what living things need, and we just have to figure out our own way to do that. So for me, it's my Easy Green fertilizer. For you, though, if your water has it, you might not have to add anything. So that brings up a point. If you don't know already, on the website there is a place to sign up for our newsletter. We did it on Friday, I believe, where Easy Green's 25% off. So people have ordered an insane amount of Easy Green. And normally I kind of tell you on Sundays, but since I'm traveling more, I won't always be around to do these talks. So we're kind of transitioning more to the newsletter as well. But anyway, 25% off Easy Green until the end of tomorrow. But I think we started with a little over 300 bottles. And let me see how many we got left, because it was low. Like, it was real low. So how many people can still get in on this deal? Let me tell you. 9 people can get in on this deal. So D&H says, like the stream, everyone. Great topic tonight, Corey. Love all of your advice and guidance. Well, thank you, Dean. I try to enjoy doing this. And I find that I give the best presentation when I really enjoy it. So I'm really intrigued to experiment in my fish room. And I love talking to other people that are already doing this, but don't want to talk about it in the public. Because a lot of times, if I brought this topic to Facebook, the firestorm that would rain down with people on the internet white knighting what they heard someone else say for so long, like, I don't understand why people can't allow other people to experiment. Like, they won't even allow you to do it. They just have to make sure you know you're wrong when they can't actually factually tell you why you're wrong. They just know that, well, everyone does it, you're wrong. And so a lot of the people that like to experiment just don't share knowledge then, and that makes everyone worse for it, because there might be, you know, like that guy at Ocean Aquarium, he does it forever, and, you know, you got to walk into a store to see his magic happen. So Valley Fish donated $5. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Valley Fish. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel or something like that. I can't click on it now, but maybe I'll check it out later. Can you mix snails? Yeah, you can mix snails. I've tried guppies so many times and it never works no matter what I try. Well, usually, Maya, it's just, you know, it comes down to something either specifically wrong about your water or the source where you're getting the guppies. And that's just kind of the way it is. And so it's kind of a battle of wits. Do you want to keep trying until you figure out what the problem is? Or do you want to just, you know, switch to a different fish? You know, like for me, let's say I moved across country and I couldn't keep guppies alive. I would try for years to do it because I can't live without guppies. But if you're just going, I could live without them, try something else. Let's see here. Narenza65 donated $5. Well, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. So here's a question that's going to make half the internet hate me. Do people change their water way too much? The answer is probably yes. And why is it probably? Because most of us are doing it out of fear, myself included. So I auto water change. There's a lot of tanks out there that don't even produce nitrogen, yet 10% water change every day. So I'm doing it out of fear, and it allows me to be lazy. And I meet a lot of people that go, well, I change 50% on my tank every week, and so I don't test it. I know it's good. And then they get a sick fish down the road, and then I ask them what the water parameters, and they say, no, it's good. I changed 50%. And, 30% of you I talk to, I really just go, just give me the water parameters. Just do it. And then eventually they go, who knew? I have ammonia in the water. I'm going to change more water. And it's like, see how easy that was? All we had to do is test. That's the first thing. And, it's just like my doctor, I'm sure. If something's really wrong, I go, well, I'm going to want to take a blood sample. And it's like, well, you just took my blood the other month. And you just start there so you can rule things out. And when we take things for granted, we miss a lot of stuff. So, do I think most people are changing water way too much? I think people on the internet are. What that means is if you're active in the community, we're, as a group, probably changing too much water. Now, if you're a random person that doesn't interact about fish online at all, I would wager they're changing not enough water. And so what happens is, you've got people changing too much water, people not changing enough water, they kind of come online, and the onslaught of water changes hit them. If you're not changing it 17 times a day, you're abusing your fish. And so it either A, forces them to come up to that level, and now they're changing insane amounts of water, or B, forces them back offline because they don't like, the welcome they got when they came online. So I think it would be much better if we really targeted, help and things like that to go, well, let's figure out how much water needs to be changed. Like, instead of all the time people post, like, how much water should I change? It should really go, here's how much nitrates I make a week. Here's how big my tank is. What do you guys think would be the mathematical equation for me to change water to fix that? If people pose that question, that is way easier to solve than just throwing out, I change 30%, I change 50%, I do it every third day, I do it, and we're all just giving our biases for our own personal aquariums. And you'll meet people that, I knew some people that lived in California, and they had 20 parts per million nitrate out of the tap. It was actually more beneficial for them to use a Planet tank and lower their nitrates than to change water, because every time they changed water, nitrates went up. And so that's kind of a weird thing to deal with, but that's what happens, different waters all around the world. Thank you for this. Makes my Monday mornings at work go a little faster. Well, good. I've been starting to listen to more YouTube stuff while I drive, because I finally, I'm an old man. I finally got Bluetooth going, so I can just, get it going. Uh-oh, what's Flynn asking about? And then Kaylee's chiming in. I did set some Easy Green aside. I did set some aside for Flynn. He's coming to my store tomorrow. And he wants duckweed. Woo, we got duckweed. Sometimes I go to bed but almost panic thinking I forgot to water change all week, but then remember I just did a water change that morning. See, that's the thing is, what we need to change in our minds is not be afraid of not changing water. We should be afraid of not testing water. Because changing water doesn't necessarily mean we've made the water parameters better or worse. But if we tested the water and we knew, that's what we should be afraid of. It's like, oh, I haven't tested the water in a while. I have no idea where I'm at. It's kind of like driving a car with a gas gauge that doesn't work. Basically, once you get down below a quarter tank, you're going to be scared all the time. And so you just fill up more often. But if we had a working gas gauge, now we feel really safe about it, right? And so kind of the same thing. If we have a working way of testing our water, we can feel really safe about our water change schedule, how often we have to fill up, so to speak. My husband works in a hospital drawing blood, and he said, thank you for being someone who understands why we need to test every time. Yeah, Maggie, it happens in a lot of industries, and it's humans, just in general, we assume a lot of things. We assume that because we had water tested or blood tested 1 month ago, that the results are likely to be the same 1 month later. And while that, let's say, is a 50% chance that's true, there's also a 50% chance that's not true. But our brains think it's more like 99% chance. That's the problem. And especially over time, our brains learn. And so if we had our blood tested every month for a year, and it's always the same, month 13th you're going, I'm not testing my blood, it's going to be the same. and yet you die a month later because no one tested your blood. And the reason is we test water, we test blood, those types of things when we notice problems. And it's used as a diagnostic tool. So if we can rule out all water problems, we can then focus on aggression. We could focus on toxins coming in that we couldn't test for. We could focus in on temperature. We could focus in on, is the fish going egg bound? You know, there's all these other things. But there's water parameters are the most likely cause. So we'd like to start there first. And I'm sure doctors are the same way. Like, look, this guy says it's not this, but it's this 99 out of 100 times. I just got to convince him to do this, and then we'll find out. Then maybe he's got that crazy rare disease. So, did someone just say 654 people? Because that's getting kind of crazy. Let me see. Is that true? Wow. The peak so far has been 673. This is... We're ratcheting this up. I love that we're building this community. I'm actually enjoying it a ton. That's why I'm building the wall back here. You know, I just want to, I don't know, building this is super awesome. I'm hoping we're going to have a giant crowd at the Aquatic Experience. And, you know, hopefully just include everyone. Whether you're a guy that will never do a deep sand bed, or you're only going to do natural, or you're only going to do saltwater. You know, make a space where we can all go, oh, I can appreciate what you're doing there. I don't agree with what you do. Like, I can't understand why you love clownfish in saltwater, but I can appreciate your love for that like I have my love for my guppies. And that's, you know, really just include everyone. So, back off my soapbox and back to natural planet tanks. Let's see here. Gonna make a trip to the Ocean Aquatic? Is that store? Dude, I want to go back already. Dorcula's gonna bake a cake when 1,000's watching. Ooh, I gotta try a little harder then. She makes this rad basket strawberry cake that's so ornate and awesome. I'm always impressed when she makes it. I hate the buttercream frosting, but it's so visually impressive. I ask her to make it all the time, but it's so much work that she only does it for real special occasions. So, let's see. Hi from Puerto Rico, Corey. Thanks for the duckweed. Glad you got it, Lewis. Well, actually, we should thank Kaylee for that. I'm sure she shipped it. So those of you who don't know, we have a bot working for us right now. And what that means is it's helping police, you know, like someone typed in all cap locks, or if you type too fast, you're spamming us, or you're swearing. And it's not to replace mods. It's just to help the mods. Because when it really gets going, it can be hard to miss stuff. And I'm so far behind the chat, I can't help out. And there's other cool things, by the way. So it's keeping track of all your guys' comments, so I can go back and read it. But also, it gives me cool little things, like I could pick a winner. And the top chatter right now, let me click on this. See top chatters. So for this, so the most messages sent since I started using this, which was on the 12th, so about a week ago. Let me grab a drink here. The people with the biggest mouths, number 1, Dorcula, my wife. She sent 81 messages. Gillette, 66 messages. LR Brett's, he's getting his fair share in at 51. KG Cichlids at 45. Laura at 44. Rurutu M at 42. The Nerdy Fish at 35. Nick K at 29. Dwayne Kitchell, I'm surprised he's not higher. Maybe his are just longer and it's not so many, at 28. And the Fish Nerd rounding out the top 10. So there's cool things I can do. There's also giveaways and stuff I can get going on here. So that's going to be fun to play with down the road. But let's see here. Turn on the Duke Nukem quotes. I can try it. Let me try real quick. One of the settings I did have it so that it would give them. Let's try the excessive caps. Will that let me do it? That one won't let me do it. I think I could turn it on for swear words maybe, but I hope it doesn't ban you guys for trying it. Let's see. I don't know. I got to look at it later. I don't want to spend all the time doing this. So, outsourced by the bots. You know it. Anyway, no water today. No, I've got some water right here. Like, I've been drinking some water. But I haven't had soda in a couple... No, that's a lie. I had some last night. But I'm trying to take some of the soda. Maybe drink a little more fruit juice and water and that type of stuff. It's a slow transition. Corey, I added CO2 to a 10-gallon tank. My plants are so green now. Good. Glad to hear you're having success. Watch that pH though, because it can drop your pH sometimes. Which, for guppies, that's a problem. My wife is trolling me. Anyway, just share on Facebook. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that my whole goal, by the way, is to get this thing as big as possible, but totally keep it manageable. Because I don't know if you guys have been in like a Taylor Dean live stream, which I have. The thing is scrolling so fast, you're not even sure words are hitting the screen. And so that's why I've got it limiting how fast we can post and things like that. But I want it to be as inclusive. Anyone can participate, but at the same time, usable. That's an important part to me. Because if this isn't usable, we're just wasting, everyone's wasting time. So that's the goal. Can you say a quick hello to my pregnant missus who is awake at 12:30 GMT? Her name is Lauren. Well, John and Lauren, good luck. And I'm guessing you're going to have a lot more nights watching me after you have that baby, because it's going to keep you up. And let me tell you, my voice soothes the soul of babies. So that's my superpower. What about wild plants? So yeah, a lot of times what you're going to run into with wild plants is they're growing at a lot cooler temperatures, so they melt down in our aquariums because we're keeping them too warm. That's what I've run into. Anyway, I'm sure some will adapt, but you're just going to have to try it. And yeah. Best way to add calcium to my discus diet? What I would probably try, John, is maybe use like some calcium powder like you dust crickets, but dust the food first. Because it's hard to get discus to actually eat a lot of foods. And so try getting it on something they do like and see how that works. I don't know that for a fact that it'll work, but try it. I know you hear it a lot, but thanks for your time, talent, insight. You put into your channel, especially these live streams. Really cool subject today too. Well, I'm glad everyone finds it cool, because I thought everyone's gonna be like, I'm not interested in natural aquariums at all, and so I thought it was gonna be like a small stream. But you know, in general, if I enjoy the topic, I really get into it. So. How can I donate? Fishfool asks. So you can do the super chat. That's down below. If you're not on an i or a Apple device, you can hit that money button and donate and leave a message. If you wanted to straight up donate money, I would ask you to donate to the Amazon Research Center, because that's a project I really want to see get off the ground. And if you didn't want to donate money but want to support me, you can buy stuff at aquariumcoop.com, and that fuels everything too. It keeps my employees and all that kind of stuff working so that I can do this kind of stuff. Because I've got employees at the store right now running it for me. And I've got employees here in the chat. And so yeah, it takes a lot of people to make this little world go round that we're living in here. Brackish water plants or freshwater plants? What's a hardy plant? Transfer to brackish. Chris, this is a realm that I'm not good in. I've been hearing a lot lately of people having a lot of success with Bacopa, Caroliniana. So try that. But I would say... you know, it's trial and error. I don't think there's a lot of good info on the online, because I would have read it by now and I've been looking for it. So yeah. Any advice or opinions on keeping Dention barbs, which is the roseline sharks, in a 125-gallon planet tank? I would say keep a group of like 12 of them. I know you're going, geez, that's expensive, but they do better in big schools. They tone down their aggression. You're going, they're not aggressive. Well, they can be a little... I'm trying to think of the right word. I want to say hierarchical, but that's not even a word. I'm trying to say, like, there's a pecking order. That's what I'm trying to say, but I don't know the right word to say that. Tap water, pH 7.3, KH 71.6, GH 71.6. Can I keep cherry shrimp if I put crushed coral in the 40 breeder? How much coral should I add? I don't think you need to add crushed coral. Your pH is fine. KH and GH is really high, so I think, if anything, you might have to use a little bit of RO water, but I don't think you need to add crushed coral. I think you're good to go. Let's see. By the way, I got to figure out some kind of fan system in here, because the sun is beating down on me because we had daylight savings, and it's getting through winter. And let me look on my camera. Is my face red yet? I'm starting to turn red. It is hot in here. So... But I'm going to work on the room outside and move some of those totes and quiet it down so I can get this door open, because it's brutal. In fact, I'm going to open the door right now. If it's unbearable loudness, let me know. But it's hot. Plus I got all these lights on in here, and it's just adding way more heat. So start cooling this bad boy down, because either A, I got to cut it off early, or B, you're going to have to deal with a little bit of background sound. And if I just talk fast enough, you'll never know. Let's see. Does it show you how many times sashimi has banned someone? It doesn't. Only the bot would do that. Like if it was actually banning people, I guess. Let's see here. Once I finally understood my tank as an electrochemical biological battery redox, then it all came together. I now give talks to my local fish store to help others do the same. Yeah, I mean, I think the important part there is finding striking common ground with who you're presenting to. So I really try to find out, like, what do you do for a living? Oh, you're a doctor? Oh, you're a mechanic? Oh, you're this or that? And when I can put it into terms that they use all the time, sometimes it really helps them learn. And I always look stupid because I'm going, okay, I don't know anything about that thing, but it might be like someone doing this. But it usually bridges the gap enough they can understand it, because like even my brain is like, okay, an electrochemical biological battery, like we're talking about aquariums, right? Like I know what you're saying there, but I think the average person is just like their eyes is glazed over and be like, can you show me the pretty fish? So DCV says, wish I knew you were at Ocean Aquarium. You got to follow me on Instagram and stuff. When I'm in the field, so to speak, that's where I'm at. I'm on Instagram doing a little bit of live stuff, and because it's all on my phone, right? It's super easy. Take a picture, boom, share it with you guys, keep moving. Whereas like all my camera equipment, stuff like that, all that has to get edited, and I leave Facebook a little more towards the business end, so all my employees can be posting our deals and that kind of stuff there. And I put stuff out on Twitter too, but you know, you get a lot more. Like you probably saw two or three not videos, but pictures already from today. So let's see. Fruit juice does have as much sugar as soda. In fact, it could have more. I realize that, Kaylee. I'm actually just trying to break myself of like the soda and caffeine, and then I find it a lot easier to go from like juice to actual water. But we'll see. You know, don't get me wrong. I could be, you know, full on back onto a Mountain Dew IV drip tomorrow. Like I'm not promising anything. So, does my blood run green with Mountain Dew and Easy Green? Yep. It's really awkward when I bleed because I look like a monster. Well, I'm just going to say it. WTF 1A says, curious as to your thoughts, but any tips for starting off a small business selling crayfish and other fish? So first, make sure you've watched the 6 videos I have on doing that. So make sure you've got that out of the way. Then email me. I'll give you a few extra tips on top of that. Once I can tell you've watched all that, you'll then have questions that are outside of that. But I hate answering a question like, oh man, that's in video 2. Like, oh, you didn't watch it. But in general, I would say for crayfish, your target market, in my opinion, is pufferfish owners. Selling like the self-cloning crayfish to everyone that owns a puffer seems like a good idea. And then also the dwarf CPO, the Mexican crayfish. Planted tank enthusiast, I feel like that's a good market to be in. And other fish, kind of depends on what other fish are going to go well with your water. But yeah, I mean, you can always email me, and as long as you've watched all my other stuff on it, I'm willing to give some advice. It's when people haven't done that part that I'm like, well, I've kind of made those videos, and what I hope is when you ask me questions, I'm like, oh, I haven't covered that. Great, I can make another video about that. So yeah, hope that helps. If anything, you should be able to make your $5 back on crayfish to pufferfish owners because they're amazing. Myron Bryan says, in a small footprint, 14 by 14, I'm guessing that's inches, tank with guppies, shrimp, and snails, is there any small cory cats I can add? So we have guppies, shrimp, and snails. Yeah, you could add Corydoras pygmaeus, Corydoras hasbrosus, or Corydoras hastatus. Any of those 3 would work, in my opinion. Let's see. What do we got more about natural aquariums? We're not even an hour into it. I could still nerd out on that. What signs do I look for when nitrate gets a bit too high, like over 40 ppm? Well, I find you notice the fish acting differently. Maybe, you might see like, oh, their fins are a little bit torn up. Maybe you see like their eyes bulging a little bit, way before you'd see Popeye, but just a little bit different. Maybe their color's a little bit more dull. One of the telltale signs I see a lot of people when they have higher nitrates is poop is kind of on their fish is like hanging off them as opposed to kind of falling free. But yeah, I mean it's hard to know, and testing is the best way. Getting yourself testing on a regular basis. It's kind of like, how do you know when someone has high blood pressure? Like, you could look at me and go, that guy's fat. He's more likely to have high blood pressure. And whenever I'm tested, I don't. But then you've got, like, that skinny guy was, like, running a marathon every day, as fit as can be. How did he have high blood pressure? So we have to test because we can't know. We can, sometimes we can, guesstimate. But a lot of times we can't, too. So, let's see. Can I please get a shout out for fishkeepermap.com? I would really appreciate it. I think, I haven't been to that yet, but I believe that's where all the YouTube fish people are from. I saw it in the other live stream. I just haven't had time to go to it yet, so we'll see. Can you make an Aquarium Co-op branded chocolate milk? I wish I could, because let me tell you, you think I've put in some work into making easy green or a fish food? Oh, no. I could make some wicked chocolate milk. I don't have a way to store it, though. And but yes, I love me chocolate milk, and I've had people bring it to me. So if you want to make Corey happy, bring me cold chocolate milk, just a small thing. I just want a small thing when you come see me. Like, never bad. Worst case, I put it in the fridge and I drink it later, but I'm never sad to see more chocolate milk. I did run out of my fridge full of Mountain Dew. That is true. I finally drank through it. It took 4 months, I think. Yeah. Let's see here. I did take my first drink of water. Wow, I'm way behind. That chat really got moving. I'm going to scroll down a bunch. Let's see here. Top 10 most interesting fish such as the blue puffer. I probably need to do a video on that. Let's see. The tetras. There's a tetra. I'm trying to think of the name. I kept it in my store. The ones that splash the water up onto their eggs, they lay up on leaves out of water. That one's super cool, but my brain can't think of the name. Then I like the brackish water killifish that self-clones. That thing's interesting to me. Never kept it yet. I know there's got to be more stuff where I'm like, ooh, super cool. Haven't done that yet, but I'll think of it later. That's why I got to do a video on that kind of stuff, because otherwise I'm just going to come with common stuff where I really want to try and come up with stuff that I know about that I haven't done yet. Steenfod Aquatic says, meet up at Aquarium Co-op tomorrow at noon. Well, thank you for that. I won't get any work done now. And now I actually have to show up to work on time. I was planning to go pick up shirts and stuff from the printers tomorrow, so I got to leave extra early to make that happen. But if I'm late, don't shoot me. I'm picking up stuff. But I will try to be there on time for everyone who wants to show up. Let's see here. Natural tanks. How heavily planted should a tank be? Filter, yes or no? If so, what kind? Opinion using sunlight. So, kind of a lot going on in that question. I think more plants the better, assuming we can sustain them, because we either going to have to fertilize or use slow-growing plants or whatever our plan is. Filters, I think there's something to be said for some mechanical filtration in that kind of a setup. That being said, I haven't tested it a whole bunch yet. And sunlight, I think the answer is it's awesome if you have a big body of water, because you can not fight, but control the temperature fluctuations more. But I really want to add on some greenhouse to this fish building and keep fish in sunlight, because there's some fish that just look amazing in sunlight and then terrible in your aquarium. Gold honey gourami care. They're pretty much like other small gouramis. They're an anabantoid like a betta. You kind of treat them like a betta, honestly. But, they want to eat floating foods typically. They'll eat off the bottom, but they love things like frozen and freeze-dried bloodworms, and they'll eat flake. And usually you want to keep either one or like a group of 5 or 6. That way you can not have aggression issues going on. And I would say minimum 10-gallon or so to play with those. And they're not too predatory, but they can be. I think they're one of the better small showpiece fish for people's aquariums. How much nitrate should I have in the bank? I keep my heavily planted tank moderately stocked, tank around 20 ppm, but haven't tested enough to know how much that number moves between water changes. I would say 20 is perfect. Like, so what I tell people is, I don't want to drop below 10, and I don't want to go above 40. And as long as my tank is always in there, I consider it to be happy, and I've always had great success. That's for my water. It could be different for someone else's water, but I've always just known that my tanks are like in the zone when I can keep it in there. If it drops below 10, I start getting a lot of yellowing on the leaves. It gets way too high, I start getting some fish issues. So I just try and test it. And if you don't change your stock levels and you keep your plants at kind of the same scape most of the time, you'll be able to dial it in to where you can guess what the nitrates are every week. So let's see. What signs? Oh, we went over that one. Hierarchical. Is that the actual term? That just seems like that word is so hard to say that it seems like it can't be a real word. That's the problem for me. LG3 Nation. Hey, Corey, has anyone asked you if Corridoras are named after you? No one's ever asked me because they already know that they are. No. I do kind of want to buy myself. There's a shirt on like Cafe Press called it says Corridorable, and I just think that's the perfect oxymoron for me to wear, a Corridorable shirt. But I do think it would be super cool if I like discovered. Well, you don't get to name your own Corridora, so I need to go collect fish with Bob at Steamfod Aquatics. He needs to find a Corridora, then get it described, and then name it like Corridora's McElroy or Corridora's. Well, I guess it would. McElroy, so it'd have like OII at the end or something. That'd be kind of cool. I would definitely do that. Let's see. When am I going to be Ocean Aquarium again? Love to meet me there. DCV, the most likely time would be in August. I haven't cemented anything yet, but I'm supposed to go talk to 2 different clubs in August in California, so that'd be the most likely time. I watched a video of yours, quarantining new fish. Do you still stand by dosing Icex, General Cure, and erythromycin once for about a week? And do I quarantine shrimp with the same dosing? I'd still do that, daily. I wouldn't do it with shrimp. With shrimp, I would just do praziquantel, which you can just get Prazipro from Hikari or something like that. But there's a lot of the parasites and stuff on shrimp that we can't treat, so yeah. Let's see here. Dear Mr. Corey McElroy, sir, do you know anything on breeding a mono shrimp? Salinity temps. I've been failing constantly for about a year now and won't quit till I succeed. Well, I feel bad for you, Moving Water, because you're up against a tough battle. So what I watch most people do is they can get them to hatch and in larval state in fresh water. The problem is any type of filtration usually sucks them up super quick. So it's best to do it like in a 10-gallon tank with no filtration and just check on it every day, get them to finally hatch. Then you start turning that tank brackish. And that's where I've watched people be the most successful, but it's such an insane amount of work, and I'm not sure on the temperature or the salinities, but usually what people do is they get it further, like, hey, I got 4 more days further before they all died than last time. And then you got to like reset up the tank as freshwater, do all the work again to get it to happen again. It's really labor intensive, but I don't know the right direction to point you to get like, oh yeah, just do this week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and you'll be successful, unfortunately. But I do admire you for once you get to the end of that, you'll be on a short list of people that are like, oh no, I legit bred a mono shrimp, raised them up, and I did that. So that's going to be a short list of people. Do I watch other fish keepers on YouTube? And if so, who? I would say not that many. I don't have a lot of time. But I do watch... I used to watch Braille skateboarding to kind of like turn my brain off. I don't even watch that anymore. I watch Bob's every once in a while. So Steamfod Aquatics. Usually I'll check in on competitors, so to speak. So I'll watch, Dustin, Joey, Rachel, DIY Aqua Pros, and just see what they're doing, if they've got good ideas. And usually what I'm doing is I'm reading the comments and seeing how you guys interact with their content. And then I know, like, oh, maybe I should do that, or I've done that before, or, oh, you know, every once in a while you see just a good video where you're like, wow, that was just awesome. I'm trying to think of one where I really enjoyed the series by Greg Jones, where he's setting up his, like the breeder system. I enjoyed that series quite a bit. Who else? Like, what other videos have I been watching lately? I mean, I try to hop in a lot of live streams. I'm trying to think. I mean, I do watch it, but the problem is I probably only have less than an hour that I watch YouTube, and it's usually while I'm listening to it in the background is what I'm doing. LR Brett's Aquatics, I usually watch at least for his intros because they're different every time. So there's that one. I watched Lep Diesel's a little bit today on his shrimp room. But yeah. I mean, I know there's other ones I watched that I can't remember, but I got a long list going now, so, you know. You can try Amazon for Easy Green. Some people have been able to get it and ship it to other countries. Yeah, it should be. They just checked in the last shipment we sent, so hopefully it's back and available to most people again. We'll see how it goes. We're not shipping anything to the UK, but Amazon will ship to the UK. It has been confirmed that Easy Green from Amazon will ship to the UK. Wow. So Arrow2582 says, I just moved from Edmonds to Louisiana. Any good freshwater shops here? I want to start a dwarf puffer tank. How many should I have in a 20-gallon, and what tank mates, if any? I prefer just pea puffers. I'd probably do like 6 or 8 of them. And then hopefully, out of like the 600 people that are watching, odds are someone else is from Louisiana can go, hey, my favorite fish store is this. So if you can help them out, that'd be super awesome. And thank you for the super chat. And hopefully, that'll be the best $10 you spent because you'll get your new favorite fish store. Seth, Corey, do you know a good place online to get leopard frog plecos? The place I would go right now, Seth, I would get on the waiting list at All Oddball Aquatics. I know he's breeding them, and he's got a waiting list already, but I would just get on the list because his operation is awesome, and I would trust his fish, so, yeah. If you do a deep sand bed, is there a concern about anaerobic areas within the substrate? So, trademark, that's the reason you set up a deep sand bed, is you specifically want it to go anaerobic so that it will consume nitrates. And there's other things, and I haven't delved into that enough, but there's other things that'll consume as well. Because I was just starting to learn about that. It actually consumes more than just nitrates down in that layer also. It can convert different, I think it was converting some of the hydrogen ions and stuff like that as well. But, you know, I haven't delved enough down into that to really be educating other people at all on it. But I do intend to play with it, so we'll see how it goes. Looking forward to Corey's NWW series as he puts together a natural aquarium. What is NWW? One tank at a time? I'm trying to think of NWW. What do I do that's... I don't know. I'll have to read it down low, so I'm sure someone's got it. Know any online places sell a lot of stiffin and gobies? I would check out aquabid.com. That's where I would be looking. Let's see. I have a lot of respect for you, Corey, so I must tell you, cow's milk hurts baby cows and makes it easy for a baby cow torture. Veal is a tortured baby cow. Cow milk contains pus from infected teats. It's probably true, but the reality is half the stuff in this building is bad for the environment, and so I try to do the least amount of damage I can while still maintaining a life I want to live. And the problem is, out of 600 people, everyone's got a sore spot. So someone's probably enraged at the type of paint I used, the type of food I eat, the type of milk, the way I keep fish. And so while I respect your opinion, I usually tell people, you know, maybe I'll do enough research and I would stop doing it. But being that's one of my favorite loves in life, which is chocolate milk, I would say it's unlikely. But hopefully other areas of my life... you know, I'm doing right by that, so it kind of weighs itself out. And I know that's, people don't look at it that way, but that's how I look at life is, you know, if I was to never offend anyone or do anything wrong, I'm not sure a human can actually live that way on this planet currently. So, You can definitely get as close as you can, but getting to that state, I feel, is almost impossible. My nitrates are 40 ppm out of the tap. I've got lots of plants and a jungle of pothos. Is there anything else I can do? By the time I do a water change, it's up to 60 ppm. If you had like a garage, Maggie, I would get plants growing in the garage in like a 100-gallon tote of water, and then I would use that for water change. So the goal would be hopefully that the pothos or whatever you're keeping out in that tote would have sucked a lot of those nutrients out before you water change it in. The other thing you could do is intensify your light. The more light you have, the faster your plants can kind of photosynthesize and use up that. And then, so I guess back to what we're talking about, if you established a deep sand bed, they consume nitrates, right? So part of the thing is people are afraid of deep sand beds because they're afraid it's going to rob the nitrates from their plants. But in your case, you've got an excess amount, so it seems like you might want to start up another tank and really test that. It takes 6 months to establish it, but I would definitely be trying that out. Is a 55 taller than a 40 breeder? Yeah, it is. I think it's like 2 or 3 inches taller. Is wisteria a water feeder or root feeder? It's a water feeder, the fish life. Hey, Corey, my lemon tetras, when I got them, freaked out when the light turned off and hit the gravel and such. I got a dimming light to turn off slowly and I'd stop it. What's the likely cause? Mostly, you probably have a shadow, or it's just something when that light goes out is spooking them. And, it doesn't really ever go completely dark in nature for the most part. There's always like a little bit of light from the moon or something. And so I like to have at least a night light on in the room. Like even just one of those little plug-in ones. Something, a source of light from somewhere in that room. And I've got a video on that actually. But it could just be, one, the sound of the timer. It could have like resonated through the water. Could be that, like right now I've got light coming this way on me. If I was to turn a light off and create a shadow onto the tank, that could be a problem. So yeah. Let's see. Do I know? Oh, I answered that one already. Gotta go. Thanks for hanging out, Laura. What fish can you mix with angels? Right now I've got Corridoras. I'm just wondering what else I can mix with them. Usually bigger bodied tetras, so like red-eyed tetras, black neon tetras, stuff like that. I might lose weight if I stop drinking milk. I also might lose weight if I tried to lose weight. I'm not trying to at all, so there's that. Ick has killed the 6 fish in my tank. The only thing in there now are some plants. Are they contaminated with ick as well? So Penny, there would still be cysts of ick in your tank probably, but after about 2 weeks, you should have, gone through the entire cycle so that they couldn't find any hosts and it will have died off. Now, depending on water temperature and strain of ick and stuff like that, that can change a little bit, but usually after a week, especially 2 weeks, I would consider that tank safe to start introducing fish back in. Let's see. Why do you think that natural ecosystems are usually kept in reef aquariums with various cleanup crews, sponges, and other inverts, and why do you think it's not as common as freshwater in a similar way? So that's a good point I didn't bring up earlier, Nicholas. It is much more widely accepted in the saltwater hobby than it is the freshwater hobby. And so I think the reason for that is because most things in saltwater, most, are wild caught and they tolerate very little fluctuation at all. They have to employ every system they can to keep it as stable as they can. And so that's why they're using things like algae scrubbers, protein skimmers, deep sand beds, refugiums, macroalgae, just live foods, stuff like that. And a lot of that cleanup crew is because they're trying to mimic nature because the stuff's coming from nature. And I think part of it is it's really easy to change freshwater water and not as easy to do saltwater water, and it costs more money to do that. So I think that's what naturally left it. And I think it's one of those things like you've got 2 ideas, change a lot of water, don't change a lot of water. And this is saltwater and freshwater. And as they kind of just keep diverging, it naturally takes the hobby in different directions, even though we're really doing the same thing. We're keeping a fixed environment in a glass box. We're just approaching it from different ways. In an 8-gallon, how many shrimp can you put? I would start with a small group and get them to breed, and then sustain however many would live there. What are the best plants to get that don't need much light? I would say cryptocorns, anubiases, java ferns, maybe some of the lily species. Let's see. New to my channel, are you familiar with cichlids? What are some driftwood types to avoid? So Marco, I am familiar with African cichlids, dwarf species of cichlids. Larger Central and South American cichlids I'm a little fuzzy on. But some driftwood species to avoid, you want to Google it, but I believe any pine, the sap is toxic. I think cedar might have that problem also. I'm trying to think of what else I know off the top of my head. It's mostly the saps that are in the driftwood that are the most problematic. I'm pretty sure cypress is okay. But I don't know like walnuts and things like that. You'd have to look it up. And I don't want to tell you something's okay, kill all your fish, and then you go, you did that to me. So, is the width of a 40 breeder or the height of a 55 better for being able to keep a larger variety of fish? I think you could argue either way on those. If you knew the fish you wanted to keep, you could probably make an educated decision. But I would say if you don't know what you want to keep yet, buy the one you think is most visually appealing to you, and then put the fish you want to keep in that. Like in a fish room, I like 40 breeders because they're shorter. I can stack more of them on top, makes that a little easier. As a display tank, I like a 55 a little better because 4-foot lights typically make more sense. But it all depends on what you're doing, really. What plants do I recommend for a tall tank with 1.8 watts per gallon? So, Bob, the first thing I would ask you is, are we doing typical T8 lighting, or are we doing T5 or LED? Because if it's 1.8 watt LED, that could be very high light. Could be. But in general, I would just do a lot of stem plants is what I would do. Trying lots of stem plants with a good fertilizer. So wisteria, bacopa, mayaca, trying to think of other stuff. Water sprite. And you could do low light stuff like crypts and anubias and stuff like that, and some lilies. You get a lot of variety. What pleco do I recommend for a 29 triple red cockatoo breeder tank? I would like something rare and different. What do I think? So if you're keeping the cockatoos warmer like they want to be, up around that 84 degree, I might do something like a gold nugget pleco. That's probably what I would do. Is sand under a normal layer of gravel beneficial for plants? Well, I think it could be in that anaerobic bacteria layer, possibly, but sand itself usually is relatively inert after it leaches out all its silicates. So I would say not specifically beneficial to plants, but might be beneficial overall to your aquarium. Let's see here. Oh, so someone said 6,500 Kelvin bulbs, and I missed the other part. Kaylee says, Corey already brings us sweets almost weekly. I try to spoil my employees as often as I can, and it's mostly from a forgetful standpoint. I forget a lot, and so I try. I know Aquarium Co-op only sticks together because I have awesome employees, so I try to, buy them coffee every once in a while. I delivered them some Girl Scout cookies last week. In general, if I notice they need something, I try to get it for them, that type of thing. Let's see. I can't figure out how to navigate Aquabit. It confuses me. So you just go by species, where like gobies would probably be in the other species list, and you kind of just it's like eBay, except for fish. Yeah. Nick Gordon's curious to know how many tanks I have at my house and at my store. So in my house, which this building I'm in is not my house and it's not my store. In my house, I have one tank. It's called the Wife's Tank. It's a 230-gallon custom acrylic tank, and in this building, I think at the last count of actual aquariums, well, if you add these two in, is 65. Then I've got all the ponds. And at the store, I think I'm a little over 100. But I could recount them. But to me, the number doesn't matter because, you know, it's how, like, I'll fully admit I'm not utilizing all these. That's why I don't want to set up any more. I'm actually wanting to downsize to some larger aquariums, the more I use. And I want to get some things going. You can notice, like, there's some guppies swimming around in there. I put some assorted guppies, so I'm playing with that already. But I really want to utilize what I have more. That's the thing is, if you get 20 hours of enjoyment out of one aquarium, you're getting more enjoyment than I do out of an entire building full of fish tanks because I don't have enough time to enjoy 20 hours worth of them. So, yeah. Corey, do you subscribe to any freshwater aquarium print media? Amazonas, for example. So I do. That's the only magazine I subscribe to. That being said, I haven't read one since the rice fish edition. And my big thing, I signed up for 3 years. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to pile them up. And then when I fly, I'm going to read them all. Turns out I don't like weighing down my backpack because I already have a laptop and all my camera equipment. I don't like weighing it down more. And then usually I'm working on the plane. So unfortunately, I haven't read many. I give them a lot of my employees. I go, here, go read this. You know, I'm not going to find the time. And I love it, but I just don't. I've got books and stuff, and I got a couple of cool books. A person at the meeting when I was in California speaking bid against me and bought the book and then gave it to me. So I got Mabuna cichlids written by Leif de Masoni, which was the first African cichlid I ever bred was Demasoni, or de Masoni. And so I got that book. It's kind of cool. I haven't read it because I kind of know most of the knowledge, but I've got that in my collection. And then they also gave me antique aquarium book, so like a book on antique aquariums. It was super cool. I haven't read through that, but I do intend to read through that because I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So I tend to collect books, and I work for a day in which I have enough time to read them, if that makes any sense. Like I just really want, work really, really hard for X amount of years, and then get to a point where I can do anything I want with fish and just kick back with my koi pond and read a book on fish if I want, whatever I want to do. And so I'm just amassing things like, ooh, that'll be cool to read someday. And the important part in my mind is someday, because I don't think I'll be able to do it in a timely manner. Would peacock gudgeons be good tank mates for stir-bite cories? Oh, I think it would do okay. They're a little bit nippy, so I might avoid guppies and tetras and stuff, but they might be okay with those. What sand is best for the deep sand bed? A coarser sand. So the coarser it is, so it doesn't compact, the better. And if you read some articles, they get down to different millimeters, ranges that work best. Did I put filters on the tanks behind me? I did. There's right over here, there's a little corner filter, the Fluval U4, and then right there's the Fluval U1. Long term, I might drill a hole through and put just an air stone through them, because I don't think they need the filtration. I just wanted something to move some water in there. Anyone know if I can make an Aquarium 55-gallon rimless if I use a center support? Kyle, you can. Just the edges are a little rough sometimes, so they, try to make up for a little bit of their messy handiwork with that. Let's see here. Do I not like bow front aquariums? I don't know. I like some and I hate some. In general, I don't own any. But every once in a while I see someone else like, ooh, I need that. But typically I like bow fronts when they're really big, 180 gallons or larger. When they're smaller, I find that they're distorting the view of the fish a bit. So, any experience with the gold neon tetras? Yeah, I've kept them. Just keep them like normal neons. Yep. Is Carib Sea supernatural sand good for deep sand beds? I don't know that it is. I think that's pretty fine. I would like Carib Sea's Ivory Coast. I love that sand. That's one I really do like. Air stones help to increase the oxygen in the water. Frogs do absorb a lot through their skin, so water quality is most important. Good to know. I didn't know they absorb through skin. That's good to know. Are dojo loaches and green sunfish good with each other? I've never kept them together, but it seems like it would work. So that's, you know, just from knowing those fish a little bit, not doing it. Have I ever used a National Geographic sand? The best stuff, I think. I've never used it, so I don't know, yeah. What do I think about using fish poop for plant fertilizer? So, like, houseplants, it works really good. The problem is, like, fish poop will only have the nutrients that went in. So if your food doesn't contain iron, you'll put very little iron into your plants. What would be good tank mates for mud skippers? I don't know if there are good tank mates. Maybe fiddler crabs, but mud skippers pretty much eat anything that fits in their mouth, and they can eat another mud skipper that's like 3/4 the size they are. So I'm not sure. Will Nubius do well in warmer water? I've never really had a problem. I've kept it 84, 85, and it did okay for me. But, you know, maybe you got to take it there a little slow. Good tank mates for guppies. I like snails and shrimp, and I also like nano fish like Brigitae rasboras, that type of stuff. Best way to introduce fish from freshwater into brackish water? Slow acclimation. So like every week do a 10% water change with the salinity you want it to be. So if you want it to be 0.005 or 0.05, do that much water change 10% with that, and it'll take you probably a few months, but eventually it'll be there, and you can back off at any point where you're like, ooh, they're not doing well, and you can just back it right off. Can you use a protein skimmer for fresh water? And if you can't, why is that? So salt water has what's called specific gravity. It's more dense, so basically it means foam happens at a different viscosity than fresh water does. And so we put a bunch of air bubbles in, and it'll foam up better in salt water than it will fresh water with the proteins, right? The proteins form a bubble kind of like you see with soap. What you can do, though, you can look up an advanced technique called a foam fractionator. Fraxoniter, or something like that. I have to write it out. They use it in the koi world, but you need a 6 foot tall or longer pipe, and you have water coming slowly over media that makes it bubble up on the way down, and then at the bottom it causes some foam, and you can get some skimming that way. I want to investigate and play with that in my pond someday. Let's see here. Has anyone lost a finger to Murphy? Nope. So far, all my Mabu puffers have been pretty scared of humans, and then we also don't try to have that happen because that would be a bad thing. Yeah, we got to get those Siamese alligators out. I got to put a bounty on their head to get employees to get them. You can show up in a swimsuit, Kaylee, and catch those Siamese alligators out. It's worth a 2-cent an hour raise. One for each Siamese alligator. What's the best treatment for internal parasites for discus? I would start with General Cure. I just figured out how to use Aquabid. I'm looking at some awesome wild red-lipped gobies. It says coming from the wet spot. Do you know if that's a good source? Yeah, it should be a decent source. Oh, so National Geographic sand is very coarse? I might have to look into that. I haven't looked at it, honestly. So I'm already intrigued by the fact that the sand is coarse. Do I have any tips for breeding cave spawners, peacock gudgeons to be specific? For those, when I was doing it, I used 1/2-inch PVC with a cap on the end. And that makes it a little bit easier. You can kind of like, if they won't get out of the cave and you want to remove the eggs, you just lift them up and out. You can kind of remove the cap. They fall out. The eggs stay. You move the eggs to the next tank. That's my tip for them. Are Achille fish okay with crystal red shrimp or cherry red shrimp? I would say no. They're probably going to devour them. My favorite betta, I like plakat bettas a lot. Talk about plant pearling. Well, how about you ask me a question about plant pearling and then I'll answer it, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about it. But typically, pearling happens when you have enough oxygen in the water that no more can dissolve into the water, and so it's forced to be, it just goes up in a bubble to the surface because it can't dissolve in anymore. And so usually you get that by having plants that are photosynthesizing very quickly, it maxes out saturation in the water, and then you get that effect. But you can get that effect other ways too. I have really soft water. Is there anything you suggest that I could keep in the back section of an all-in-one tank to provide calcium? I was thinking of crushed coral. Yeah, I would do some crushed coral, Blackbird, and maybe add like a wonder shell or something like that to it as well. I'm dumb and didn't quarantine a couple of fish. All but 3 of my fish have died. No recent deaths. How do I go about safely adding new fish? I don't want to put them all into diseased water. I would say what I would do is I would get the new fish you want, and I would hit them with the 3 meds I used for quarantine. That's what I personally would do. You could also, medicate those fish, then add new ones. Or if you had a quarantine tank, that'd be even better. But obviously, it sounds like you didn't have a quarantine tank. But I would just treat all the fish is what I would do. Is it me, or does it qualify fish foods? Does quality fish food smell a lot stronger than cheap fish food? So I think it's a misnomer. Typically, we as hobbyists value the smell, and a lot of times it's really easy to get to smell really potent when you use krill. And so brands use a lot of krill. We also, as hobbyists, think krill is really good. And so krill is more expensive than your average fish food. And but I think, for instance, you could have a fish food made out of 100% like brine shrimp. Doesn't smell very much, but it would also be very high quality. But I think foods on the market that, yes, that's typically a true statement. Am I familiar with gulper catfish? I'm not that familiar. Like, I've never kept one. I mean, I know what they are, and I know that basically they swallow stuff because they get big. The tips I have would probably be auto water change system, and then what would I do? Because eventually they're going to get big. I would probably feed them like pieces of tilapia and other pieces of, like, maybe I could buy frozen crayfish, that kind of stuff. I'd probably get them on that kind of diet if I could. That would be my guess. Can I use any random 15 to 25 watt LED bulbs on a 15 to 25 watt incandescent hood? Sword V, yes, you could. That being said, 50 to 25 watts of LED would be an insane amount of light. You probably need like 2 watts of LED light in that incandescent hood. But yeah. Can you make Anubias grow faster? You can. You need... Well, you gotta make it happy. And so a lot of times, to make it happier, we might use CO2, maybe fertilizer, maybe the right light. And getting all those in balance, that will maximize your growth. Usually we're lacking one of those things. Could be CO2, could be light, could be we don't have the right fertilizers. We could be putting fertilizer in, but if we're putting the wrong ones in, that's not really maximizing it either. Let's see. How long can fish survive without a filter? In theory, forever. In practice, depends on how many fish, to what size tank, that type of thing. Does Murphy eat krill? Not really. Every once in a while he'll eat frozen bloodworms, like a cube at a time, and frozen brine shrimp, but I don't think he's going much after the krill these days. Let's see here. How many people? 585. We lost a bunch. I'm losing people. Let's see. I'm thinking Corey didn't see my question, or it violates his 1 mention per live stream rule. Nope, I just didn't see the question. So, I kind of scroll through. There's a lot of stuff, and I try to pick what... I don't know. I just pick stuff. What are some brands that I consider quality fish food? I would say most brands. So, Hikari, Northfin, New Life Spectrum. My brain stopped working. Aquarium Co-op brand. Ocean Nutrition, if I didn't already say that. I think I might have already said that. I like Aquion's flake food, oddly enough. I like Tetra's Tetra Crisp as well. I mean, I boil all foods down into live being the best, frozen and freeze-dried being the next, and then dry foods the next. And so when someone says, like, I've got the best dry food on the planet, I kind of look at it like someone said, like, I make the best McDonald's cheeseburger. And it's like, well... great if I need fast food, but really I'm wanting higher quality. And so I use dry foods as a means to feed when I can't feed, so maybe in an auto feeder or as a method to deliver nutrients, because they're usually packed with lots of vitamins. And so if I do that once or twice a week, I make sure they're getting enough vitamins. Because if I only fed, let's say, frozen brine shrimp, they might lack on vitamin C or vitamin D or something like that. I can find Daphnia in my island, and Amazon doesn't carry reliable eggs. Any suggestions? Oh, I can't find Daphnia in my island. I would try to order some on Aquabid. I just ordered some, and even if they all die in transit, usually they'll lay eggs, and you could hatch them back out from that. So I would just order some on Aquabid. What food do I recommend for cory cats? I like rapashi food a lot, and live blackworms, both those. Let's see here. Do you think buying low-tech plants from high-tech tanks make it harder to transition to a low-tech tank? My brain tells me, like, it's got to, but in practice it never has for me. Like, when I bring tanks home from the store that have CO2 injection and high light and all that, and then I bring them into tanks that don't have that, they transition just fine. I think as long as you have adequate lighting and okay fertilizer, they make that transition pretty easy. Billy's down to 1% on his battery. No! Thanks for hanging out, Billy. I'm a new subscriber. I'm wondering how I can get rid of algae fast. So, Rebecca, my first question is, why do we want to get rid of algae? It's probably helping you. If you have a lot of algae, usually it's a sign you need that algae. A lot of times what you want to do is get rid of it slowly so that maybe you have live plants growing, algae are receding, and you make that transition to a well-established tank. Do I know a store that would take in fish, possibly with cash in return? Please give advice. I mean, there's fish stores that'll do it, but usually those are the fish stores I don't think are very good fish stores. Mostly because they're enabling people to trade fish, which is kind of a bad idea I don't like. And the problem I run into is, let's say you've got like, oh man, I've got 6 neon tetras that are amazing. Will you buy them off me? The reality is, if I buy them, I got to either set up a whole quarantine tank and use meds to do that, and most stores won't do that, and so that's why I wouldn't buy 6 neon tetras. Or B, if they are doing that, they're just throwing them into their sales tanks, and so then they're not quarantining, and so I don't like that either. But so in general, like when I buy fish, I'm only buying fish in massive groups. Like, oh, you want to sell me 30 epistogrammas? Great. We can put them through quarantine. That makes sense. The meds make sense. And then I sell them. But if you want to unload 1 or even 3 epistogrammas on me, I'm going, nah, I'll take them for free and I'll lose a little bit of money with meds and time, but I'm not going to buy them from you. Let's see. How much should I sell guppies for that I just started breeding? I would say shoot for the moon and go down from there. So see what your local store is selling them for and know that there's no way you can get more than half of what they're selling them for. And maybe you come in at a third. So if your local store is selling them for $1, you might only get 33 cents. But if my store, like I sell them for $4, I also put a lot of work into them. So you might get $1.50 from me. That being said, we mostly, when we are buying, because there's so many people supplying us, we usually only buy them for about $1. And it's supply and demand too. If no one's supplying any and you've got the market yourself, you've got a little more wiggle room. If there's 5 people supplying guppies right along next to you, maybe you don't have, My wife's sending me pictures of my dog. I wish I could show this picture. Let me see if I can show this picture. It's adorable. Sassy is sitting in the sun, and she's done with my live stream, so hopefully that's coming up. But, yeah. I have the cutest dogs ever. I think every dog owner thinks that. Just like my fish are the best, my wife's the best. That's how the human brain works, right? I'm always right, I never do wrong. Brandon asks how the scuds are doing. I don't know. I haven't seen them since I put them in that tank. There's no fish or anything, so I'm waiting to hopefully they just populate a bunch. Let's see here. It did. It did swear. I didn't. I'm gonna have to change what the Nightbot says. That's not good. I think that's one of the Duke Nukem things or whatever. I'm not down with that. Oh well. Live and learn, I suppose. Did it show? Hopefully it showed. So Nightbot should be getting this Liam guy, but I can just block him right now. Let's see. Your dog is not the cutest dog ever? Well, this is what I maintain for dogs. You do have the cutest dog ever. It might not be old enough, because I've never seen a dog that was old that I didn't think was super cute. Because old, as I call them, old man and old lady dogs, they're just awesome. They're happy to be alive. They're happy to see people. They're happy to get stuff. You know, feed me some food, that kind of stuff. And, you know, so, you know, maybe right now it's a little terror, but later it'll be cute. Billy says, by the way, is it better for you if I don't skip the ads? Yes, Billy, technically it's best if you guys actually watch the ads, because what it does, it tells YouTube, like, oh, he's making us money. We should expand who we show this video to. And so, while yes, it does make me a little bit more money, I don't care about that. But what it will do to YouTube, it's going to go, oh, watch this. Let me show it to more people. And I do care about that a lot, because the more people that we bring in and are accepting of this hobby, the better for all of us. So, in a roundabout way, if you watch those ads, it will help this, you know, this specific video even reach more people. It does factor that in. Corn fritters are about to start frying up. Tonight just got a lot better. That I do know. One of my albino Cory has dodgy looking whiskers, but it still managed to eat. Should I be worried? I wouldn't say so, not unless they looked infected or something like that, Kaz. You know, usually I go, hey, if it looks like it's doing well, it is doing well. Let's see. Bob says his dog will beat all your dogs in the cuteness contest. Bob, I challenge you to a cuteness competition. Please send me a picture of your dog. If it's super cute, I will enjoy it, and then I'll find a way to share it with other people. Do I have to worry about parasites with blackworms? Sawyer, you do. You have to worry about parasites with everything. Even frozen foods can technically bring in parasites at only 99.3%, I think, free of them. That being said, the benefits you get from it are so good that I think it's worth the risk, personally. Cory, you have started many plants with bulbs? ? I am thinking it would be better for me because my new plants melt back quite a bit. It could be, but really, when you buy a plant, you're buying root structure. Bulb plants are super duper easy. They've worked well for me, but so do other plants as well. I would say you kind of got to throw your money into the garbage and learn with plants, and pretty soon you're going to be able to buy most plants and do well with them. You know, think about, you know, a lot of people, they get so angry when they lose $30 on plants. Think of it like you just invested $30 in a class on what not to do with keeping plants. You know, it always takes money when you're learning an aspect of a hobby, and don't beat yourself up over it. Try and learn from it, and eventually you'll get it, and then you'll help the next person down the road. They're starting to do it, like, oh, watch out for this. Here, take this trimming, do this, that type of thing. Are loaches good for removing snails? Yeah, in general, they'll eat snails, yeah. My dog was in a movie? Oof, man. My dog was in my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter? Well, thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, that's where I put out a lot of content outside of, you know, outside of the shows, so to speak. Just got another text message. Oh, I got another dog photo right here from Flynn's Fish Forum. Yeah, I got to make sure that won't show his name or anything. There we go. As I told you guys, I'm always a sucker for a kid, so we got a hold of my personal Facebook, but here's Flynn's dog, and he does look cute, and he's in snow, so he's got double points. Hopefully that shows up for a little bit. But yeah, cuteness competition in effect here. Can I please do a mega African cichlid tank, please? Maybe someday. You know, I've got some African cichlids. I don't know if I would ever dedicate a mega tank to African cichlids unless it was the emperor cichlid. I'm not going to say ever, but I might try it if I get a fly river turtle and keep Africans. And then the diet's relatively close, and I wouldn't be devastated if he snacked on one African cichlid. So maybe in something like that. Let's see. Where do I send a dog picture? Store at aquariumcoop.com. That's where you can send a dog picture. Uh-oh, we got him flooding in. Now we got an employee dog, I think, coming in. Let me grab another one here. This stream is taking a turn for the better, I might add. Oh, it's got to load, though. This dog has been to my store. Sometimes it hangs out while we're packing, but this is Master Fief's. So this is Kaylee's dog here. And, yeah. It's a pretty cool dog because it's only like 5 years old and it looks super old already. So I like that dog. Anyway, let's see. What easy low-light plants like Anubias would I recommend for a 12-gallon? Lots of cryptocorns. Would red lizard cats do okay with pea puffers? I feel like they would nip at their tails. It might work, but know that it could go wrong. Do I own fiddler crabs? And if so, are they fun to own? I'm thinking I'm getting some. I do at the store. We sell them as feeders for puffers. They're a brackish water crab, and they want to get up on land, so you kind of got to make a different environment for them. I think they could be fun. They're also very good algae eaters, but at the same time, I don't think they make a lot of sense for most of our freshwater tanks. So yeah. I'm going to type out the address once. I'm going to get off the live stream. There's going to be like 10,000 dog pictures. So send to that email I just put in there. Yeah, the dog does have a beard. That Kaylee's dog is awesome. Let's see. But all dogs are pretty awesome. Let's be real here. Do I need to talk for the viewer home show? Nope, you don't have to talk. We're going to get some of those done in a while once we catch up on editing. It's true, my dog is old and she gets a chicken beard every night. So she eats chicken and it gets caught in her beard because we feed her Weruva food and dry food. But, well, Arcana dry food. Anyway. What is my opinion on using sand, rocks, and wood from a local creek as substrate to help cycle a tank for Texas cichlids, which are wild in my area? I mean, I feel like that's fine because everything's coming from that area anyway. Like, anything that's... I mean, I would check the wood just to make sure it's not toxic. But, you know, any parasites are going to be present in those things you're collecting just as much as that fish probably. So I would just, you know, kind of medicate them all at the same time. What brand of air sponges do I use? I like to use the Hydro sponges. Hydro Pro 3 is what I use the majority of. Sell them on the website. Yeah. How long would it take to get an F1 guppy strain from scratch? An F1 guppy strain from scratch. Well, an F1 would just be the first generation from wild caught, so it would take you about 30 days if you were to track down like some wilds from Venezuela or something like that. Oh, I think we have another dog photo coming in. Let's see here. Oh, it's different. Let's see. Yeah, so got the photo being worked on for the Amazon Research Center. I'm gonna set that up to be an auction or something like that, so we can bid on that thing. And I'm pretty excited for that because I like that piece of art quite a bit. And all the money goes to the Amazon Research Center, so it's all a charity. So that's a good thing. What do you think about sand with stingrays? Lots of fine sand that's not sharp is usually what they like. Did you say your dog is named Todd? That's a rad dog name. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, it meant F4, fourth generation. Fourth generation on a wild guppy would take, I'm going to say, about a year if you were really on breeding that thing. Like, you were just on it. Why do I prefer the Pro version of the Hydrospun versus the regular one? I like them to be more coarse so that they don't clog up as fast. And so the Pros have a coarser foam, well, reticulated foam, whereas the normals have a closed cell foam, not an open cell. And so I just like the coarser foam, so I have to service them less. They catch less debris as well, but I'm okay taking that out with water changes. Have you come across an ick strain that seems resistant to meds? Been using IckX for over a week, and my green neon tetras seem to be the most affected by it. Every once in a while I come across something like that, April, but I would wager, and this is without knowing more information, that if you've been treating that long with IckX, it's usually that it's not actually ick. It could be something else. But we usually don't know how to identify that. So I would look in, like maybe send me some pictures, and maybe you've got velvet going on. Maybe you just have some cysts going on the green neons. The green neons are all green neons are wild caught, by the way. So it could have something else completely going on. So yeah, that's the avenue I would look down. But at a week, any medication you're using for like a solid week and water changing in between each one, which I assuming because you have an active ick infection, you're dosing and changing water every single day in that week. If you only dosed it once for an active infection, I would say you need to start dosing every day. So, yeah. What light do I recommend for a 72 planted bow front? I would recommend the Fluval 2.0. Got it on my website. You can buy it on Amazon. There's other people as well. My girlfriend's gonna flip that you said our son's name on YouTube. Best live stream ever. Well, I'm glad that me saying someone's name can bring that much joy, because that makes life pretty easy, and all you gotta do is say words and people get happy. Like, that's awesome. Let's see here. How do I get rid of planaria? I do a 30% water change, and I still haven't gotten rid of it. I don't overfeed at all. So you need to understand why you have planaria. Chances are you probably have fish poop, and the fish poop is being the food for the planaria. So it's real common for like Oscar tanks to get it. You feed the fish, they eat the right amount, but then their poop, they need something to digest it. So planaria is helping like worms would help in your garden. If you really want to get rid of them, I would say put in a fish the right size that can just eat the planaria, like guppies and things like that. They typically, or swordtails, mollies, that type of stuff, they just eat it. And then if you really wanted to nuke them without any of that, use like flubendazole or fenbendazole, which is a dog dewormer. That could do it as well. Can also be harsh on snails, but is reported to be shrimp safe. In my experience, it has been shrimp safe. We got about 13 minutes. What do we got? We got more dogs. We got more natural aquariums. What do we want to do? One of my mollies had velvet treated with IckX daily for a week, and now she's A-OK. Well, that's good. I have not had success with IckX and velvet myself. Hasn't worked out very well for me. But I'm glad to hear it worked for you. Let's see. I'll see you tomorrow, Flynn. Hopefully I'll be on time. And hopefully I'll have eaten lunch. I get cranky right when I get to the store and there's a bunch of people there and I haven't eaten yet. Because a lot of times I've been working since 8 a.m. and I go, yeah, I'm going to grab something. And then I forget to grab something. And then, then I'm cranky because I'm hangry. Jacob B says, Corey, will you be my friend? No, I won't. And I'm saying on Facebook, typically not. I try not to friend very many people because it makes me get no work done and my feed gets clogged and stuff like that. So usually there has to be a reason you get into my friend feed because my wife doesn't like that getting clogged up with people she doesn't know and stuff like that. So, I'll be your friend on here, but if we're talking Facebook friends, I try to limit how much stuff is kind of getting into my feed and jamming up my life. But you can totally email and send messages through Facebook on the business page and stuff like that. So, how do I feel about a 3/4 inch layer of gravel with a 3/4 inch layer of coarse sand on top, a bit of gravel around the edges, and a natural aquarium? I think it's fine, except for when the sand eventually settles down below the sand. When you mix stuff up, usually it just ends up, being a problem long term. But, oh geez, now she's really trying to win the cuteness award. Kaylee's dropping, mad pictures of doggies. Now you're in for it, 'cause now I'm going to follow you on Instagram, Kaylee, and so now I know when you're not working. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you're being paid to ship stuff and dog pictures keep getting posted, you're busted. Let's see. How many bronze Corys in a 30-gallon? Depends on how you're keeping them, but I would say at least 10 if you wanted to. How much organic dirt should I put under the tops of sand in my aquarium? I'm not a fan of dirted tanks myself because I'm too indecisive. I want to move plants around. But in my experience, when I was playing with them, I found a 1/4 inch of dirt at the bottom. So that's very little. Did just as well as like a solid inch. So very little I find was working the best for me. And eventually I just stopped doing it. So yeah. Corey, do mollies eat parasites off other fish? I have one that appears to be doing that. Should I be worried? I don't think they eat parasites off other fish. I think you might be running into kind of an aggressive fish doing that. Or a molly, I guess, yeah. What are the meds that I use? Quarantine, Icex, erythromycin, and what else? The other one is General Cure. Can I keep angelfish and frontosa in a 75-gallon tank? I've seen people do it. I don't think it works long term. Like 5 years down the road, I think you might have run into some problems, but I've definitely seen people do it. On average, how many emails do I get per day? Let me tell you. I could tell you that answer. So today, let me scroll back in my email how many pages until it was yesterday. So at 51 emails, I've got, so here, just to put this in perspective for you, I've got 51 emails since 4:30. And right now it's almost 7. So 51 emails in the last 2.5 hours. Let me keep scrolling. So that's 100. That'll be 150. So I got about 200 so far today. Although it tends to get more active at night because people like get off work and they're settling down for the day. So 200 emails just emails, and then you've got like all the YouTube comments. Then there's all the messages on Facebook, and so we stay pretty busy. I've got the team, Kaylee and Allie, and mostly Kaylee and Allie helping me on Facebook. And I still handle all the emails, but you can always send if you got shipping questions, stuff like that. You can send an email to Kaylee, Kali, at aquariumcoop.com, and she can look up orders for you, make changes, do that kind of stuff, and it alleviates my workload a little bit, because usually I just end up forwarding that stuff on anyway. Yep, I see there's pictures. People have sent pictures to that email, but I've got no easy way to bring that up yet, so I'll try and work it into another video. There's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... 6 dog pictures, so. Ooh, now we can all police Kaylee on Instagram if she's working or not. Alright. How do I cure fin rot on my fancy Goldie? I would use some salt and maybe some erythromycin is what I would do, Dan. Ooh, man, more dog pictures rolling in. We're gonna have to, like, have a these are viewers' pets episode or something. Have I used API Furin 2, and if so, what do I think is practical for? I haven't really used it because I don't know what I would need it for. That's the problem. If I was going to use something like that, I would use Bifurin, but it nukes everything. Beneficial, basically gram positive and gram negative, and it really stains the water and that kind of stuff, and I rarely ever use something like that. What stream... Okay, hold on. I love your channel. What stream clams in Maryland are good for a guppy's tank? Trying to decode that. What stream? Maybe can clams be good? Usually you got to filter feed, so you got to feed so much in the water column, it ends up doing more harm than good long term. But they could be part of a system. How would I go about swapping a hang-on back with a small sponge filter in a 10-gallon? Would taking out the hang-on back and just dropping in the new sponge ruin the cycle tank? It wouldn't ruin it, but you could get a hiccup in it. I would run both together for about a week and then go ahead and get rid of the hang-on back. Yeah, I spend a lot of time replying to the Nigerian princess about the lost money and stuff like that on my emails. I can't leave anyone behind. They ask me a question, I gotta answer it, Luckily, that's how I started Aquarium Co-op, is one of those actually paid off. And I did get $1 million. It was great. Why do you put salt in a cold water fantail tank? Just to ask, Corey. Why would I be doing it? Because salt is antibacterial and antifungal, and I'd be using it to kill off bacteria and a fungal infection if I had an active one. How much do I sell normal fancy guppies to a pet store? We went over that a little bit earlier when this video comes up, Professor. You can watch that and you'll get a little bit of info. If you haven't already, watched the 6 videos I have on breeding fish for profit. It goes over exactly fancy guppies and selling to a pet store. Let's see here. Good question about diatom algae. Well, I'll be the judge of that. I have a good diatom. I have a good of diatom powder. What is it actually? Is it a problem? I'm trying to decipher the question. Whenever I have to decipher a question, that's like the first step that it's not a good question about diatom algae. So is it useful? Yes, it's useful in the fact that any algae is processing waste, which is a good thing. Visually, you might not like the look of it. And what is it actually? It's actually a diatom, which is a form of algae. And is it a problem? I wouldn't say it's a problem. And most things will eat it. Shrimp, snails, autosynclists, all that kind of stuff makes it reasonably easy to get rid of. What types of plants should I put in a 10-gallon to breed guppies? Almost anything. They don't care a whole lot. Could be anubias, could be java fern, could be wisteria, could be floating plants. Fish don't care what type of plants they are. We care how easy they are to grow or how good they look. Is it safe to do all your quarantine meds on coolie loaches? Yes. Any fish that's ever come into my store gets all those meds. So every fish, every time. I haven't found a fish yet that reacted badly to those meds. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist, but I just have never run into it yet. Could be something that won't handle it. Obviously salt water, brackish water maybe. Maybe there's some fresh water that don't handle it, but I haven't seen it yet. Is 3 dwarf cories an acceptable amount for a group? Depends on who you're asking. I would really love to see that group for dwarf cories be more at like 7 to 10. But some people think it's fine for 3, and you know, everyone's got their own opinion. And it's all opinion based. So even though I say 8 is the right number, if you have 8 males, that's clearly not as good as, you know, maybe 4 males, 4 females. So it's all up for debate. Let's see here. How to get female bettas unegg bound? That I don't know. That's a question for Gianne, Kevin. At Inglorious Bettas. I would say maybe putting them in with a male for a little bit of time, but that's half the reason I don't keep community tanks. I don't know how to really get them from being from getting egg bound, because you feed them well and then they balloon up with eggs. So, can I please start to ship live fish? Maybe in some time, but I don't want to guarantee anything. We'll see what comes. You know, as the aquarium co-op empire grows, we bring on more employees, and they're willing to take the beating, which is shipping live fish. We may do that. Let's see here. Community fish that do well in soft water, most tetras do. We only got 2 minutes left. Oh man. How do I get rid of a hair allergy problem in an Iwagami tank? Lots of Amano shrimp, like an army of them. That's why they were named after Amano, because all aquascapes pretty much use an insane amount. Let's see here. How long does it take to breed guppies? About 30 days. They give birth every 30 days. Let's see here. Are plecos libraries or egg layers? They are egg layers. I'm going to pretty much eat corn fritters and look at dog pictures after this live stream, because the dog pictures are piling in, and that is good. Ooh, maybe, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post all the dog pictures to the Instagram. So if you want to see all those pictures, sign up for Instagram. That's a perfect place to do it. Like, it's a picture format only, and I can put them there. So go to, you know, Instagram. We're at Aquarium Co-op. If you're not following me already, how dare you? I do live streams there. I hang out. I show cool pictures. I take pictures of other people's fish, that kind of stuff. I share a bunch of stuff there. And now I can share dogs, because who doesn't love dogs? Let's be real here. And if you hate dogs and you're a cat person, how dare you? I love cats and dogs and fish. But endure the overload of cuteness that's about to hit you tonight. And then, you know, stay with us. There'll be more fish tomorrow. Don't worry. So anyway, ooh, 1 minute. All right. Thanks for the stream, Corey. Thanks for hanging out, Dwayne. Ooh, who's Who's got the biggest mouth now? Let's see. Who's been talking the most? Where's that at? That's oh man. Oh wait, it's on the dashboard. My wife still has the biggest mouth? 158 messages out of my wife. Someone needs to ban her. Because the next one is Rurutu, and he's only got 73. My wife talks 3 times as fast as I do in person, so I guess it makes sense she's lapping everyone in text as well. Let's see here. Corey, how did you find my unboxing video? If I didn't know it, you had a channel. You guys wouldn't know it, but I have insane amounts of robots and programs doing work for me behind the scenes all the time. So if you post anything on YouTube that has Aquarium Co-op anywhere in it, I will be notified of it. And that's how I get to find new streams or new people and new things going on. And yeah, it costs money and stuff like that, but I'm genuinely interested in anyone unboxing any of my products. I want to see how they unbox. I want to see, did they ship okay? I want to support people that are supporting me, that type of thing. So that's how I knew. But yeah, I try to use robots to help me do my work whenever I can without replacing, this kind of interaction. I don't want to take humans out of the equation. I want to supplement what we're doing. And because a lot of the mods, for instance, what they don't like is the fact that they have to, if let's say the Super Bowl week and we had tons of people spamming and swearing and they were so focused on catching all of them, they didn't get to enjoy the live stream. But if they know that Nightbot is on it, they can kind of enjoy the stream a little more and get to interact with you guys a little more. So even though they're still mods, they're spending more time interacting with you guys and enjoying all this than they are just going, oh, that guy's being dumb, let me ban him, let me warn that guy, let me do all those things. So yeah. All right. I'm embarrassed to show how much I sweated today, in this room. It's definitely gonna have to figure out some venting solutions in here. Just saying. So anyway, thanks for hanging out, guys. I'm gonna get this all lined up to end it for the day. What's my Instagram contact info? Let me put it in here. It's www.instagram.com/aquariumcoop. Boom. That's how you're going to see the cuteness overload of dogs. I will be there and we'll be hanging out. And let me know what else you guys want to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week, but if I didn't get your question answered, once this uploads, which it might take an hour or two to upload, put your comments and questions down in the comments and I will address them as soon as I can. And, my goal is to help everyone. And it's obviously impossible to help everyone in only 2 hours. So I will get to you as soon as I can. Thank you for hanging out, guys. Thanks for all the support. We'll see you next week. And hopefully we've got new shenanigans to get in trouble with, all of us together. So that's it. That's all I got.